But if you have any questions, just write them in the chat box and we'll be able to answer them later. If you're following us on Twitter, the hashtag is #OFMN Webinar. And if you're looking on Facebook, you can go to Our Future Mobility Now. And if you want to email us, the address is info@futuremobilitynow.com. Of course, the topic is new mobility services, specifically on car sharing. It will be introduced by David van Kesteren, who is coordinator for Taxi Stop Cambio, and he's joined by Andreas Leo, who is head of communications for Car2Go in Ulm, Germany. Together they will be exploring how car sharing has developed, how it is today, and how they expect it to evolve in the future. I will now hand you over to David van Kesteren, who will give us his presentation, followed by Andreas.
Hello, my name is David, and I have a presentation on car sharing in Belgium and how we got started. We have been doing car sharing since almost 10 years now, but the story of car sharing for me started a little bit earlier. Taxi Stop, I'm not sure if a lot of people know what it exactly is, but it is a non-profit organization that works around mobility. And when you look at the picture now on the screen, you will see that Brussels has a huge problem with traffic jams, and some people even say we are the capital of traffic jams. In any case, due to our tunnel system in the city, we do have a lot of problems with cars all over the place. And Taxi Stop has its mission as a non-profit organization to try to reduce single-use cars. That means that from in the beginning in the 1970s when it was founded in 78, and I didn't found it, I'm not that old. It was founded with the concept and the idea that if people would drive together, systematically we would reduce cars on the road. Now it seemed like that didn't work very, very well, which meant that a whole number of series of other projects had to be looked at in order to see if things would be possible for people to change their habits. And one of the things that we did is you could stand on the side of the road and you could just hike with your thumb up, and somebody would take you with you with him, and in that case you would pay a small fee, a small amount per kilometer to the driver. And so the driver had a little refund. And we launched this in Belgium, but it's very well known now in Europe, where one of the bigger ones like the Mietwagencentrale or Covoiturage in France are all under the same concept. Something else we did is launch Car Free Day in Belgium, and I'm sure if you are aware of the mobility situation in Belgium, you know that Brussels closes down for traffic one day a year, and that's for every car use. Which means that on a Sunday no car can enter the whole region, which is more than 1 million people. And so this is also another project which we launched many years ago. However, over the years working on all these different kinds of projects, I came to the conclusion that no matter how hard we tried to raise awareness of the fact that there was constantly more cars on the road and we needed more roads to facilitate the cars to keep them going, we didn't really have any real answer to the fact that people still wanted to buy a car. Because we have seen that if you invest 15,000, 20,000 euro in a car, you are bound to use it, although there might be public transport which is there. So before people were willing to give up their car, they wanted good public transport. Now it's impossible for public transport to go in every corner and to be able to give a solution to every type of ride or journey. So we needed to think of a different way. And so we started looking around into various countries around us, and now I'm talking late 90s, and we went to Switzerland and we saw that there was a car sharing company there by the name of Mobility. We went to Holland. We saw that there were various different car sharing companies there. We went up to Berlin and saw that there was a car sharing in Germany. And one of the things that drew our attention was the fact that people could live without a car, however have access to a car whenever they needed it. And one of the nicest examples of this different change of mind was the fact that many thousand years ago, if you wanted milk, you had to have your own cow. And so you would get a cow to have milk. But now nobody buys a cow anymore if he wants a glass or a bottle of milk. He just goes and buys the milk. And so the fact is that why do you have to own a car to be able to use a car? And that was a different change of mind which we started to investigate, and we thought, how can we make this work also in Belgium? And so studies have shown us that if people take away their car, if they don't buy a car, they are open for other things. And so we started in 2002, and now we are about 10 years later. We only started in Brussels in 2003, and now we are 9 years later in Belgium and in Brussels, and we have 230 cars divided in 83 stations, and we have more than 7,000 people actually using the system. These members pay a monthly fee, and so that's why there's not thousands and thousands of them, because you only become a member when you really want to use it. And this is in the whole country. We are in 23 cities, and we have almost 450 cars. So what is then car sharing? Car sharing is a system where you have different types of cars that are spread out across the city, like in Brussels, 230 cars, they are spread out, and they are usually in walking distance from where you live. And so you make a reservation, and you can go to the stations. You can see two examples of stations in the picture where you can see cars there, and if you have a reservation, you can just go to the car where you have a chip card, and this is the most common system in car sharing. And the chip card, you put it before a reader, a chip card reader, and then the car opens and you can enter into the car. And so you have small cars, and you have bigger cars, and you have small transporters. So it's a simple system. You can join through the website. You get some information, then you make a reservation, and then you just start the car. Every car has a board computer, and through the board computer you have a personal ID number, and in that way you are sure that you are sure that you are the person who is using the car at that moment. What are the advantages? Well, the advantages is that actually you only pay for a car when you actually use a car. And that is, of course, the big difference in the beginning, many years ago, when we tried to get people to drive together in carpooling systems or ride sharing, is that people said, well, I have a car, and what I get from somebody else, it's fairly difficult. And so once they have a car, they say, I paid for the car, so I'm going to use it. Now, once you do not have a car, and you did not make this investment of 20,000 euros, then it's much easier to use a car if you can have one in the neighborhood. And so it avoids people to buy a car, and it avoids people to buy sometimes a second car if they have a family car and they have a second car which they do not use often. Now, car sharing, of course, is not for people who need a car every day to go to work or to get the kids to school and to bring them back. Then car sharing is too expensive. Car sharing is for those people who you can do a fair amount of kilometers, but you don't need the car for your daily use. You use your public transport, or you walk, or you go with a bike. It's an easy system because you have no real worries for yourself. You have no maintenance, no insurance to take care of. Everything is within the monthly fee and the use of the car. There are always modern cars. Cars are sold before they get 4 years, and every car has its own spot, its own parking space. Now, because for us, Taxi Stop, who is a non-profit organization, the question was very important to us, are we now actually achieving our goal when we started car sharing? And the goal was to reduce the number of cars in the country. Now, I must say, in the long run, we still see that in our country, the number of cars are growing, and we are still increasing. But we do notice that people who enter into a car sharing system, that they or sell a car or do not buy a car. And in this small graph that you see here, you can see that Brussels, with its a dense area, the success is smaller because less people have a car. So 18% of the people said, yes, I sold my car after I joined Cambio. And on the other regions, it's more than 30%. If we look at people who have said, look, if I would not have found out of the system, I would have bought a car, then we see it's 10% in Brussels and 9% in Wallonia and 13% in Flanders. And I would have most likely probably bought a car, there the percentage are a little higher. Now, if you add all those percentages, then depending from region, it's between 40 and 60% of the people have said that due to the fact that there is a car sharing operator in the place where they live, that they have avoided buying a car or have sold the car. And that was one of the goals why we as a company, as Taxi Stop, have started. The impact here in number of cars is, as we see in the following graph, Flanders is 164 cars now in its fleet, and one Cambio car replaces at least 12 private cars, and if we include, probably it's 15. And so you have the figures for the different regions, and if we calculate that all together, we see that just in parking place we have 92,000 square meter. Now, because of the system here of the PowerPoint, we don't see all the graphs behind it, and I did not bring that on paper with me, so I cannot give you the calculations. But if you want to, I'm sure they will mail you the presentation so you can see the rest of the information that's on the slides. So we have less cars, we have less parking place in urban cities, which is another goal that we have in order to have a more livable urban situation. We need to reduce the number of cars within the city regions, within the center cities, in order to make it possible for people to live more freely and to have more green places, more parks, more sporting places. Now, there's also, of course, an impact on CO2 and other all kind of how do I call it in English, environmental emissions, which have a negative impact on the health of our citizens. So the fact is that, of course, we buy recent cars. In the coming years, the fleet will also we will include electrical cars into the fleet. We will have tests of that running very shortly. We have the first one into the system, and we will have a set more this year, and we will be testing to see how that works. Another interesting element here is, well, what happened with public transports. For us, the public transport is very important, as it should be the backbone of mobility in our modern society. Up to a few years ago, everybody thought that if you wanted mobility, you need to have a car. And that is something we want to change. We want to change the fact that if you want to get somewhere, your first reflex should not be a car. Your reflex should be, can I use public transport? Can I walk? Or can I go in a different measure? Also here on this graph, I'm very sorry to say, all the color has gone. So you don't see as much. You only can see the percentages below. And there you can see that after joining car sharing, 21% have used the trains more. And then the next one is I'm sorry, the 21% is for buses and trams. The 9 to 10% is for trains. And what is very interesting is the two next ones is that 20% of our customers say that they use the bike much more, and that is good for their health. And so car sharing helps people to become healthy, and 19% or 18% says that we walk more. And of course you have these number of people, 23%, they say, look, before that we could not afford a car. We did not have the financial means, we could not use a car. So there's also a social aspect to car sharing, where a number of people who did not have a form of mobility or had to lend cars or look for them because they could not buy one, could also use a car through the car sharing system. For us, this public transport slide is very important, because we work in very, very close cooperation with public transport in the country. We have a shareholdership with Cambio, with the railways, the Belgian railways, and the regional public transport companies in each region. So actually we should say that every public transport company in Belgium is a shareholder in Cambio. And so we work a lot together in order to improve our battle against the car. It might sound strange, however, we are not against the car because we believe the car is necessary, and there will always be people who will need a car, and certain journeys can only be done if there is a car available. And also it is so that car sharing only works fairly well in cities. It's not so much on the countryside, because you don't find enough people who can live without a car for their daily commuting. And so that's why it is important to note that car sharing is something that happens most of the time in the cities. We also work together with Vilo. Vilo is the bike system here in Brussels, where we try to encourage people to use a bike or to use a Cambio when they cannot use the public transport for a certain ride. So we did this campaign with public transport not too long ago, but we call it a perfect marriage. And because of that, public transport is willing to invest quite a lot of money into the car sharing system, because for them it's a win-win system, and for us it's a win-win to work with public transport. And public transport needs a image upgrade in most places, and we can help them get it, and we need to be able to reach the vast majority of people, and we can do that through car sharing. The left one here, it's in Flemish, but it says the station, you get out and then you get in to a car. So it's a place where you can go from one mode of transport into the other. And car sharing here, the subtitle is a car when I need it, where I need it. Of course, there is the new chip card being launched in Belgium. This is the chip card, the Mobip card, which is used here in Brussels. This card will be for every kind of public transport in Belgium, and it will be also for car sharing. That means that with one same chip card, you can use all the different modes. You will also use it to park your car. You can also use it to rent your bike. And so we are working together with public transport to make it possible that people can use the different kinds of mobility in a seamless way. To very closing slide here, it just shows you how we are structured here. So you can see that one of the main founders here was Taxi Stop. We started the company together with Cambio. Now, why Cambio? Cambio at that moment was one of the few service providers available. So we buy their services and we buy the brand, but we operate it from our own country here. The next one to come into the mother company was the VIB, which is an automobile club. And so we work very closely with them, and they also take care of our call center in the weekends and at nights. And then to the left of my screen, and for yourself, we have the railways, which are the shareholder. And the four of them, we form Cambio Belgium, or Optimobile, which is our official name. And then we serve the three daughters, and the three daughters work with the regional companies. I believe car sharing has a great future, and proof that car sharing has a future is the fact that there are new car sharing companies being launched nearly every 2 or 3 months at the moment. And so we were very happy to be one of the pioneers, and we were a pioneer in our own country. Thank you for listening, and now I will pass on to Andreas, who will give us his experience out of Ulm.
Yeah. Thank you very much, David. Just getting here more in the middle of the screen. Okay, just let me give you a quick introduction into Car2Go, and so many of the things David just mentioned about car sharing are the same for Car2Go.
but we developed it a little bit further. So from our perspective, Car2Go is some kind of enhanced car sharing scheme. And you can say Car2Go, of course, is personal public mobility, as flexible and convenient as an owned car, but without owning one. So first of all, let me say some sentences how it comes that a car manufacturer like Daimler developed a car sharing scheme like Car2Go. So of course we are seeing some social, political and economic trends which supports car sharing growth in general. First of all, the mega trend of urbanization, cities restricting inner city driving and parking, for example in London, where you have the congestion fee, paying £8 per day when you use your own car inside the city. And this leads to the development that more and more households in great cities, in large cities, doesn't have their own car anymore. So in large European countries you find between 40 and 50% of inner city households without their own car. On the other hand, there's still need for a car. You wouldn't use public transport or the bike for all your mobility demandings, and sometimes even zero-car households need the availability of a car. On the other hand, there's some developments using instead of owning sharing systems, bike sharing, car sharing and other sharing systems continuously growing. And there are new technical possibilities for both vehicles, and customers are always online, and so are the Car2Go vehicles. So Car2Go, from our point of view, filling some kind of gap between classical car sharing and your own private car. The main differences to the classical car sharing, like David just mentioned, was Car2Go comes without fixed rental stations. The Car2Go vehicles building a network. We have a large fleet in all our cities. The vehicles using the public parking space, the public streets. You can find the cars throughout the city area within a walking distance, maximum of 3 to 5 minutes to go. And customers have access 24 hours, 7 days a week to their car. Once registered, you can open the car at the spur of the moment. You can rent the car spontaneously. You must not book in advance. You can use the car as long as you want, and you can leave the car on every public parking space in our business area and must not come back to a rental station. So how Car2Go works? First of all, as a new customer, you have to register, getting your membership card. You find the available cars very easy through the internet. You can check this out on our internet website, www.car2go.com, or you can use one of several smartphone applications for the iPhone or for Android smartphones. You can locate the available car, you can book it immediately so no one else can get faster to the car than yourself. And then you have access to the car in a classical way, using your chip card. Open the car by holding it against a card reader behind the windshield. When you get inside the car, you find a large touchscreen device, and you have to enter a PIN number. You must rate the cleanliness of the car. That's because we don't get the cars back in a rental station, and so the next customer must rate the cleanliness of the car. And then you can put the key, start the engine and go as long as you want, wherever you want. And after finishing your rental, you use any public parking space throughout the city, or special marked Car2Go parking spots in so-called hotspots in parking garages, maybe near the train station or shopping centers or whatever. So Car2Go has a transparent pricing scheme. It's an all-inclusive price. We are only pricing by the minute. That means we don't have a monthly fee and we don't have minimum turnovers. The price includes insurance, maintenance, fuel and the parking, and you have special hourly and daily rates. The pricing differs between 24 and 29 cents per minute. It differs slightly from location to location. Some words to our user groups. Nearly 60% of our customers are between 18 and 35 years old, but we will still have a growing number of older people using Car2Go because they find this very easy and convenient way to drive inside the city. 9 out of 10 of our customers are using this USP of Car2Go that you must not return to a rental station or must not return to your starting points. You can make one-way rentals, picking up the car on point A, going to point B, and left the car for the next customers. So we developed and started Car2Go from the Daimler AG in 2008. We started our first pilot in the city of Ulm, which is between Stuttgart and Munich. And after 5 months, we opened this pilot project to the public, and this was a huge success. We have continuously growing customer numbers in Ulm, and nowadays we have more than 20,000 registered customers for Car2Go in Ulm. We started our second pilot in the Texan capital of Austin in the US. That's why we, from the first moment, we saw Car2Go as an international project. We saw this enormous international potential of this new scheme, and so we have our 2 pilots in Ulm and Austin. In 2011, after finishing the pilots, we decided to go into the market, and with the city of Hamburg in Germany, we started our first real market city. And then in June 2011, we started Vancouver in Canada, and then in November 2011, we started 2 cities with whole electric drive fleets. We started in Amsterdam in the Netherlands and San Diego in California with fleets of full electric vehicles. We're putting 300 Smart for 2 electric drive vehicles into the city of Amsterdam and into the city of San Diego, and started our first electric car sharing fleet there. In December, we launched in the city of Vienna in Austria, and 2 weeks ago we started in Lyon in France, and last Monday, 1 week ago, we started in Düsseldorf, and many other cities throughout Europe and North America will follow. So at the moment we have Car2Go in 9 cities with more than 2,700 Smart for 2 vehicles. We only use the 2-seater because from our point of view this is a perfect car for inner city driving. The car is small, it has less consumption, and it uses very few parking space. And for most of your inner city mobility demands, you don't need a car with more than 2 seats. We have more than 60,000 customers worldwide, which made more than 1 million rentals so far. Because the typical Car2Go rental is between 5 and 10 kilometers, which is a normal inner city distance, we have more than 10 million kilometers driven by the Smart for 2s, which means Car2Go vehicles going 250 times around the globe. And same thing David said, even Car2Go has a good and strong relationships with public transport. We launched in Düsseldorf with cooperation with the public transport Rheinbahn, developing a monthly card which allows the customer having 90 minutes free Car2Go driving and 4 hours daily free usage of the bike sharing scheme in Düsseldorf Nextbike. So in Amsterdam and San Diego we use the Smart for 2 electric drive, which has a lithium-ion traction battery with 135 kilometers driving range and a high level of comfort and passenger safety. And Car2Go customers can use this electric drive vehicle and must not return to a recharging station after each rental because, as I said before, the average distance of a Car2Go rental is about 10 kilometers, and that means only every 12th or 13th customer has to return to a rental station. to a recharging station. The other customers can leave the cars, even the electric cars, throughout the city. So in Amsterdam, it was one of the world's first all-electric car-sharing schemes. We have 300 smart photoelectric drives over there. And this is the reason why we started Amsterdam, is that the city of Amsterdam has this ambitious Amsterdam Electric scheme, which built up 300 charging stations available with project start last November, and up to 1,000 charging stations end of 2012. So that was my short presentation about Car2Go, and now we are open for your questions. So I think the first question is for you, David. How long has TaxiStop been going?
Well, TaxiStop as a non-profit organization was founded in '73. The first real service that the people could see was in '78, where they had, on a very short time, thousands of people who came into the scheme, where you would or be a driver or a hiker, and that people would just stand next to the street with a little, let me show it in the presentation. One of these here, which you can see in the middle, it's like an etui, and then you could write your destiny. And so in a very short time, TaxiStop was known for this. Now, and in these days, this is not so popular anymore. And we started with that with '78, and then we went to various other things like carpooling. We founded travel agencies. We founded an institute to work with companies on their mobility. And so it was actually in '98 that we started our interest for car sharing. There was another question, which I think is the same for any scheme for car sharing, is the fact that it is something that is for those living in cities. There is in Belgium also another kind of company by the name of Autopia, and it has this utopia thinking about the auto, which in Flemish is a car. And there is more a system like peer-to-peer car sharing, and a peer-to-peer car sharing is a system where you use your neighbor's car. And this is a system that is more viable in rural places. As soon as you have somebody who says, look, my car is available for a few hours a day, then somebody else in the neighborhood can say, okay, I would like to rent it. And then there are contracts available and all that stuff. But if you want to have a car sharing company that at the end of the day is financial or break even, it is only possible in cities. The smallest place where we have a car sharing is, I think, Sine, which is a place of about 10,000 people.
Yeah, maybe I should add something. Car2Go is a mobility concept developed for larger cities, for big cities, because the cars are rented by the minute, and of course you need a minimum number of customers who rent the cars. So Car2Go is mainly interesting for cities up from 500,000 inhabitants, and of course with a minimum population density. So even for metropoles, for agglomerations, of course, and for million cities.
Yeah, that's indeed a big difference, because otherwise in Belgium we'd only have one city which could have car sharing. So another question I see here is that somebody asks us, how do we set prices? Well, the prices are a little bit more complicated than the Car2Go, as we do tend to push people towards public transport for the small inter-city distances, and to use the car sharing car, for example, when public transport is not a good solution. For example, shopping, the stuff that you need to carry is too big to just take the bus, or you need to visit family or friends somewhere, or you need to go out for the evening, and there is no public transport available when you come back. So there's a hourly fare, which is around €2, and then there's about a 33 cents per kilometer fare, which you pay. And so it's invoiced once a month, and it's sent to your home by mail, your invoice, and then it's just drafted by bank. There are of course different schemes which you can go cheaper or more expensive, but that's the basic idea. And you can find more of this specific information on the website www.cambio.be, where you can go into this typical. I'm not sure from which country you live, of course, but if not, you will have to look for your car sharing company locally to find out their prices.
Okay, and there's another question: can car sharing compete with lease cars? These are also usually cheaper for the user than owning a car. So for Car2Go we have cooperation, and we have a joint venture with classical leasing, with a classical rental company. So if you need a car which is bigger than a two-seater, than the Smart for Two, then of course you can go to Europcar and you can rent a bigger car. You got special rates as a Car2Go customer, and the driving to the Europcar rental station will be for free when you use the Car2Go.
Yeah, a lease car is of course a typical car or typical system of car where you have a car which is yours, and at the end of 3 or 5 years you just switch it in for another car. People buying a lease car only buy a lease car because they do a lot of kilometers, and these kilometers, once you do that kind of kilometers, then car sharing will never be a solution for you. We need to be very honest. Car sharing is for people that do not need the car for daily purposes, and once you pay the amounts of money to get a lease car, you will use the car for most of your transport needs. So lease car is cheaper than car sharing because by the nature of the use that you will have once you lease a car. Nobody leases a car to just do 100 kilometers a month. So car sharing, we have a lot of customers who do less than 100 kilometers a month. So for them, the buying of a car is a financial investment that is not worthwhile, and for those people, they need a different scheme.
So now there are several questions concerning Car2Go. So I will start with the first one. Why did Car2Go start in Ulm? Yeah, that's a good question, and we decided to start in Ulm because we have a research plant, research facility from Daimler in Ulm, and we have a company who developed the telematics software for the car, and so we decided starting in Ulm with a pilot project. So Ulm was our first pilot city, and for a pilot project you have to find out if the system works properly, if there will be an acceptance from potential customers, and so we decided to start in a smaller city, and Ulm was the perfect choice, and we have this enormous success in Ulm, who leads us to the decision that we start in other bigger, larger cities. Next question: is every Car2Go Smart an electric vehicle? No, it isn't. We start with full electric fleets in 2 cities by now, in Amsterdam and San Diego. We have a couple of electric vehicles in our fleet in Ulm, 5 Smart for Two electric drives in Ulm, and a total 600 Smart for Two electric drives in the 2 cities, Amsterdam and San Diego. And we will start in the second half of 2012 our third 100% electric vehicle city, and this will be Stuttgart in Germany. There we will start with 500 Smart for Two electric drives. So some practical questions about Car2Go, and maybe to classical car sharing as well. Do you need to refuel the car? No, you don't. We have a service team with Car2Go who make the refueling of the cars, and in case you as a driver want to make the refueling by yourself, you will find a prepaid credit card for a refueling station inside the car. You can use this paying with the PIN number and the card, and because you are doing us a favor when as a customer you make the refueling by yourself, you get 20 minutes for free driving when you make the refueling. And what if you'd have an accident? You find in our touchscreen telematic device inside the car, you will find an SOS button, and if you push the button, you will automatically connect it to a service center, and in case you have an accident, you should phone in the service center, and they will help you with any cases, with any questions, police, insurance, and so on. Of course, Car2Go drivers have an insurance included. With 500 euros you have to pay by yourself when you are when you made the accident by yourself. And can you drive the car to another town and leave it there? No, of course not. Unfortunately not. You have Car2Go as a mobility concept developed for inner city driving, and you have to return the cars to the city where you started, and you have to finish the rental over there.
Yeah, I think maybe just add a little bit, just like Andreas said, for this last part of the question is the philosophy behind car sharing. Car sharing is not like a train. It is not a concept where you take the car and you take it from one city to the other city and you leave it there. The idea is that you take, for those long distance, you take your public transport, and then at the place, at the station of the city where you are, you take the car sharing car to do the last leg of your journey. And it's like with your private car. Car sharing wants to replace your private car, and you don't take your private car to go to another city and leave it there because you would have to go and pick it up later. So car sharing is one leg in a seamless mobility concept, which is becoming stronger and stronger. And you cannot look at car sharing as being the solution of your mobility. No. Once you go into that road, you are losing the concept of why car sharing was founded. Car sharing is there when you need a car and you use public transport, your bike, or any other system for your daily commuting.
Okay, next question is, how do you manage the distribution of the cars in the city if 9 of 10 users are going from A to B one way? So of course we have a great fleet of cars, 300 of them, for example, in Hamburg, 500 of them in Vienna, and we have a very, very broad community. So we have different users, different user groups, social groups. We have several user stories. Some people commute with the car, some people going to work, some people going to shopping, some people going to visit friends, and so we have traffic 24 hours a day to different locations and from different locations, and so there is continuously growing, and our experience since 3.5 years shows us that there will no great agglomeration of cars inside the city. So the cars are very well dispensed all over the city, and so we don't have to manage the distribution of the cars. From this reason and from the other reason that we have many of those cars, and so mainly all of our customers find an available car in their neighborhood.
The next question, because I think that one was well answered, I don't think it needs any extra comment. The next question is, how do you educate users about new mobility services? That's a very interesting one, because that's one of the things that we as an organization have been working on for many, many years. And as I tried to explain in the beginning, the main concept is once you buy a car, you use a car, and that will never change. And so it is to try to convince people not to buy a car, or at least not to buy a second family car or a second car in the household. And that we do through marketing campaigns, but for that we also work together in Belgium with a number of other organizations, like a bicycle organization, an organization that helps pedestrians. We work together with environmental organizations, and of course with public transport. And we do a lot of awareness campaigns in order to make people aware that they can have mobility without owning a car. This is something that takes a long time, it's a long stretch, it's a lot of effort, and it's something also the government helps us in order to achieve that. So it's not so simple. And to educate people who don't really want to be educated is always the greatest challenge.
Yeah, maybe I can add a sentence. So if people recognize that that they can use several type of mobility services for several reasons, they must not go to every direction with their own car. They must not use for all behaviors, for all needs, one solution. So there will be an more open mindset, which makes users more familiar with new mobility concepts, with bike, with public transport, and even with their own car, because there are several reasons where an own car is still the best things for have, maybe for going to holidays, or if you have a great family, and so on.
I think the next question we already, right. What happens in peak periods if all cars are occupied? You're stuck, indeed. It happens, and we cannot say it doesn't happen. However, it is so that when you make reservations, especially during holiday periods when there are a lot of people who want to take the car for a longer period, I'm not sure if Car2Go has the same problem, because we also have people using the cars to go on holiday and in the weekends to take them away. And sometimes it happens that there is no car available, and then also we do have a cooperation with a car rental so that you can rent a car from them. If we would not have that problem, we would probably have a financial problem. So I admit that sometimes there is a problem.
So if all cars are occupied, then Car2Go definitely will be a huge success. But of course, it's a question of finding the balance. So we started with a several number of cars, and when we have increasing demands, and if we have increasing numbers of customers, or if our business area will growing and becoming larger, then of course we will increase the number of cars as well. So there will be every time a balance, and that the customer will be able to find a car in every time during day and night. So this is our target.
And then the top one we actually already now, the other next question, do you get a reward if you bring the car back where it is needed? That one we already answered, because we don't do one-way car sharing, neither of us, into different cities. So that we did. So the next question is, car sharing will become even more interested when the member card can be used in different towns where Car2Go is available. Well, I read the question for you, Andreas.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. Yeah, of course, today it's unfortunately not possible. So, but we were working on this, and during the first half of this year, you could use your membership card from one location to the other. So this is called roaming. We are still working on, and of course this is one of our main targets, to allow this roaming, and not even national but also international. And I think we will here in a very short time we will have a solution that you can use your Car2Go membership card in all Car2Go locations.
Yeah, I just want to add to that this is already available within the Cambio network. There's Cambio in Germany and there's Cambio in Belgium, and you can use the car in any Cambio city now. But the real challenge is not this challenge. The real challenge is when will we be able to do roaming between companies, so that a Cambio Belgium can use a mobility car, can use a Car2Go car. That is a different challenge, and together with this and a number of other people, I'm working together with the UITP, which is the International Public Transport Organization, to see what possibilities there would be in the future to make this possible. And that would be, of course, the most ideal situation. And but the main reason why this is not working as I was hoping it would work is because in some cities there is large competition between different car sharing companies, and of course once they allow roaming within a city, you are getting a financial problem within the city. So I'm not sure when that will happen, but it is a challenge for the future, and I hope Europe one day will set some standards in order to make this possible.
Yeah, I will agree to that. Okay, so let's continue with the next question. Will it be possible to offer my own car to the car sharing platform in the future? So I think this will going to this peer-to-peer car sharing models. Maybe you can say something about that, David?
In any case, it's my hope it will be. There are already systems that allow it. There's covoiturage, there's the name, I've lost the name just right now, but in Paris there is a system now where you can put your own car into the car sharing system. In Holland there's a number of them in Germany, but it's really big for the moment in the States, and in England you have Wipcar. So these are coming, and these are now. What is not really popular yet is the two-in-one system, so that you could be a member of a car sharing scheme which has its own cars but also includes cars of private people. That is still something which is in the investigation, in the research corner, which actually Taxi Stop is researching for the moment, because we think that would be a great idea, because there's thousands of cars all over which are not used, and people will be very happy to use them, and this would be a really good possibility in the cities that are not so densely populated.
So next question, would it be good to have several services competing with each other in one city? So saying something about competition. I think for the customer, from the customer perspective, it's always good if you can choose from different offers, and I think from my side, car sharing is a large growing market, and there are growing numbers of car sharing users, and of course there are growing numbers of car sharing companies, and so from my point of view, it's not bad when you have some competitors in a city. But most of car sharing companies are still not in competition, because if you take classical car sharing or enhanced car sharing scheme like Car2Go, there is not really competition, because there are some different aspects for users for those mobility concepts. Car2Go is more for a short-term rental and for short-distance rentals, and classical car sharing, like with Cambio, you rent the cars when you go maybe for longer distances, for holiday, and for holiday traveling, of course, Car2Go is not the ideal concept. So I know some experiences from Ulm. I've spoken with lots of customers in Ulm. We have a classical car sharing company in the city of Ulm, and we have customers who use both classical car sharing and Car2Go, and they decide from one day to the other and from one mobility demand to the other which one they use.
Yeah, the competition question is also a question of that local governments have to put for themselves. They usually do not allow competition in public transport, so they'll have to look how they want to handle competition within the car sharing industry. It all depends, of course, what is the philosophy. If you want to have lots and lots of cars, or you want to have little cars. So that is something that is actually a local government issue. In Belgium, we are for the moment we have one competitor here in Brussels. It's still very small, and it's just only on the electrical car market, so we don't really have that problem. Maybe I can go on to another one. Is one huge problem is not solved by car sharing to find parking places in city. Do you intend to develop and install a tool to improve this? I think the question is to find an empty parking place where you want it, and that you can reserve it ahead of time. That, of course, is a problem that is all over. Those who know a little bit about the field know that now in Paris there is a electrical car sharing scheme put on the road where you can reserve the car a parking place on a specific car sharing station a half an hour in advance. But as far as I know, this is the only possibility that you have there. But sidelines to that, and this has nothing to do with car sharing, there are now schemes being developed in different cities where you can actually reserve a parking place in advance with individual private people, for example, on their own driveway. And this is a new scheme that is being developed, and this is idea it's been popping up left and right, and it's something that also we as Taxi Stop would want to encourage. However, what we want to not encourage is that there is so much parking place in the city that everybody now can just drive once again with their own car to the city because there is enough parking place. So that's a double feeling about that, because the main goal is, why don't you take public transport to go into the city, use your car sharing car or public transport there, but if it's not available, then there's a car sharing car there to do your intercity traveling. But let's try to keep the cars away from the motorways.
Yeah, what we're doing with Car2Go is, of course, you can use every available public parking space without feeding the meters, without drawing a parking ticket, because this is still included. And what we are doing in areas where it's hard and difficult to find any parking space, we're renting parking possibilities in garages and mark them as Car2Go parking spaces, so that our customers must not search for a parking space and can easily go to a parking garage and find an available spot for leaving their Car2Go vehicle.
But I think this question was more put in anywhere, which I don't think has anything to do with car sharing. But the last question, do the cars for car sharing have a special responsibility in terms of introducing the latest, most efficient cars to the larger public? Yes, of course they do. And I believe many car sharing companies do it. They try to, like for example ourselves, we always buy cars that are in the most ecological friendly brackets, and we try to include the electrical car, but of course there is a counter balance to it. It all has to be affordable. Most car sharing companies are not a subsidized company, so they need to at the end of the road be financially efficient. And of course with that you need to be wise, and that's why most car sharing companies cannot just go ahead and buy all kinds of huge expensive hybrids or electrical cars or the latest hydrogenic cars, for example, which would be very interesting also just because of a price issue. We did do a survey about 2 years ago to our clients concerning this issue, and most clients thought that we did have a responsibility. However, very few clients were willing to pay more just because the car was ecological friendlier, more compared to their normal price. And so in this way we do see that a number of people using car sharing also do it for economical reasons and not really for environmental reasons.
Mm-hmm. And for Car2Go, as we only use the Smart for 2 vehicle, which is a very efficient and economical and ecological friendly car, even if it's in its combustion engine, and so we still use a very efficient car. And with the Smart for 2 electric drive, of course, we use cars in several locations with local zero emission.
I'd like to thank both of my speakers today, so thank you to Mr. Andres